What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. So, scientists have discovered a mysterious 12-mile thick structure beneath Bermuda, unlike anything else on Earth. This could potentially explain the Bermuda Triangle. Scientists have discovered an enormous rock layer beneath Bermuda that explains why the island never sank after its volcanoes went dormant over 30 million years ago, according to a new study in Geophysical Research Letters. Typically, when volcanoes shut down, the cooling crust slowly sinks, but Bermuda didn't. Now we know why. A team led by seismologist William Fraser of Carnegie Science and Jeffrey Park of Yale analyzed seismic waves from 396 distant earthquakes to paint a picture of what lies beneath the island down to 31 miles deep. What they found: a 12.4 mile thick layer of rock, less dense than its surroundings, acting like a raft, holding the island above the ocean floor. Nothing like it has ever been observed anywhere else on Earth. Typically, after the bottom of the oceanic crust, it's expected that there would be the mantle, but in Bermuda, there is this other layer emplaced beneath the crust. The layer may have formed when the last volcanic eruption pushed mantle rock into the crust where it froze in place. Wow. So just some interesting news there that I wanted to share with you. Could explain the situation in Bermuda with all the planes that go missing and ships that go missing. Maybe this 12.4 mile thick layer of rock is generating some kind of magnetic field. Who knows? Maybe it's alien in origin. And we have a massive movement of U.S. military cargo planes going to Puerto Rico, which is where the U.S. is staging up all their forces for possible attacks on Venezuela and Latin America. Here you can see 3 C-17 Globemasters that went down to Puerto Rico last night. Also here you can see a C-130 and another C-17 that went down to Puerto Rico. So these U.S. military cargo planes are going down to Puerto Rico non-stop the last couple days, which indicates that the U.S. is rushing their preps to completion for land strikes on either Venezuela or Latin America or both. And interestingly, one of these cargo planes came down from Vermont, from Burlington, which is where the F-35s are based out of, and they just recently moved F-35s down to Puerto Rico, several more. They already had about a dozen, I believe, and now they just moved like 5 more. And so one of these planes went down to Puerto Rico from Burlington, probably carrying spare parts or maybe missiles to go along with those F-35s. And last night we had several U.S. Air Force aerial refuelers off the coast of Venezuela. Here you can see one KC-135 Stratotanker and a KC-46 Pegasus that were hanging out just 100 miles off the coast of Venezuela. These planes typically would be refueling fighter jets if they were this close to Venezuela, or possibly the E-18 Growlers, which are the electronic warfare planes that the U.S. deployed to the region. And just a few days ago, they were conducting missions here off of Venezuela. These planes can suppress GPS, radars, radio communications. So this is huge news. And the FBI released new photos of a new person of interest in the Brown University mass shooting. So here you can see the new photo. This guy right here, you can't really see much of anything from this picture. I mean, his identity's just completely covered. They did have a person of interest yesterday that they released. So as of right now, they have no idea who the shooter was, where the shooter is. Very, very strange. The Providence police are now asking for tips. And interestingly, one of the victims of the Brown University shooting was a young conservative woman who ran the only young Republican group on campus and was part of a small group of only 20 openly conservative students at Brown University. So apparently the shooter went right for her. So it's almost like it was a targeted attack against her because she was a conservative. And Sajid Akram and his son Naveed, the pair accused of carrying out the Bondi Beach massacre during a Hanukkah celebration in Australia, reportedly spent a month in a known ISIS hotspot in the Philippines just weeks before the attack. The two traveled alone to Southeast Asia, raising major red flags for authorities now investigating possible overseas radicalization. Intelligence sources say the region they visited is linked to ISIS training camps, calling it a well-trodden path for the Islamic State operatives since 2019. Wow. So very concerning. Looks like ISIS is still very active in the Philippines. And Trump said that ISIS will be hit hard in response to the American soldiers that were killed in Syria. So we had multiple attacks this past weekend, and I'm afraid as time goes on and we get closer to the holidays, there's going to be more attacks. So you guys need to be on high alert. We had the Brown University situation. We had the Bondi Beach situation. We had the soldiers in Syria. Okay, all of these possibly connected to ISIS, all right, or Islamic terror, so they say, okay? So be on high alert the next couple of weeks if you're going to Christmas parties, if you're traveling, New Year's parties, New Year's celebration, and also yesterday, major headlines were that they foiled this terror plot. The FBI foiled a terror plot for New Year's Eve in Southern California, also by ISIS. Okay, so be on high alert. And what you're looking at here is the latest satellite imagery of the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier. It was taken on December the 15th. You can see the carrier there in the Southern Caribbean, and its approximate location is now 215 miles north of Venezuela, okay? And the U.S. is proposing a deal that trades strong NATO-style security guarantees for Ukraine for painful territorial concessions. So we're hearing also that the U.S. has been pressuring Ukraine to give up the Donbass region to Russia in talks in Berlin, okay, on Sunday. Negotiators insisted that Ukraine agree to withdraw troops from Donetsk. Zelensky reportedly did not accept this idea, did not accept Witkoff's proposal on withdrawing troops from Donetsk. And Trump stated yesterday that he had recently spoken with Putin. He said, yes, I talked with him, but he didn't provide any details of their conversation. Interesting. Trump also said he thinks that we're closer to a deal now than we've ever been in Ukraine. And Trump is likely to call Zelensky and Putin, after which representatives of Ukraine and the U.S. may meet in Miami this coming weekend to discuss a peace plan, an American official told Ukrainian News. According to him, the U.S. is ready to travel to both Ukraine and Russia to achieve lasting peace. And Axios is reporting that this weekend, U.S. and Ukrainian working groups will hold talks in Miami involving military personnel who will look at maps as part of the preparation of a peace agreement. Interesting. And despite the positive rhetoric, it appears Ukraine and the U.S. are still quite far from a comprehensive agreement. Disagreements persist over the future status of Russian-occupied Ukrainian territory, as well as key issues such as the future operation of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. American officials said they would not disclose the details of the security guarantees for now, but noted that they included very strong safeguards to prevent a resumption of war. And the U.S. will not deploy troops on Ukrainian territory, so they will need to provide more details to convince skeptics that Russia will honor these Article 5-like guarantees in the future. It is not yet clear who will control which territory after a peace agreement and how the territory will be recognized. One official from the U.S. said they discussed options for turning occupied Ukrainian territory into a free economic zone, and that they spent a lot of time defining what that means and how it would work. So guys, Russia is not going to be satisfied with any peace plan that involves Ukraine keeping the Donbass. Russia has made it clear numerous times they want Ukraine to surrender Donbass, surrender Crimea, and even surrender all the other areas that Russia occupied, because remember, Russia legally annexed those areas. Okay, so Russia in their constitution has ratified these parts of Ukraine as part of Russian territory. So Russia considers them part of their territory now. So it would be a mistake if Putin didn't tell Ukraine and the West that they want that territory in the peace deal. And the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said that the coalition of the willing has completed plans for deploying peacekeeping troops to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire. So they've already completed plans, okay? Now, the Russian foreign minister said a couple days ago that if European peacekeeping forces are deployed into Ukraine, then they would be legitimate military targets for the Russian army. And the Europeans have proposed their own plan for Ukraine, and it includes 6 key points: ongoing military support for Ukraine, a multinational force led by Europe deployed to Ukraine, a ceasefire monitoring mechanism, legally binding security guarantees, investments in Ukraine's reconstruction, and support for Ukraine's accession to the EU. So I don't think Trump really wants any of those. I think Trump basically just wants Ukraine to surrender, and that's pretty much it. And British intelligence chief Blaise Matrelli stated that Putin is deliberately prolonging negotiations over Ukraine. He is dragging out negotiations and shifting the cost of war onto his own population. Alongside this, Blaise Matrelli warned the world is more dangerous and contested now than it has been for decades, leaving Europe operating in a space between peace and war, and confirmed that Russia was behind some drone operations buzzing airports and bases in Europe. So very concerning. The British intelligence chief, MI6 chief, warning about the situation in the world being very dangerous right now, and that Russia was behind all the drone incursions over the bases, including the ones that house U.S. nukes in recent weeks. And the head of the British Air Force said Britain's sons and daughters must be ready to fight Russia. UK Chief of the Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Richard Knighton, said the country must prepare for a possible war with Russia. According to him, the risk of an attack is real, and this needs to be stated openly, not only to the military, but also to ordinary people, families, and households. He described the current situation as the most dangerous of my entire career. Knighton said strengthening the armed forces alone is not enough. A nationwide response is needed, developing the defense industry, preparing society, and upgrading infrastructure. He also noted that Russia's armed forces have grown to more than 1.1 million personnel, and that Russia now spends 40% of its budget on the war, twice as much as 10 years ago. And Lithuania has decided to create a new military training ground in the Suwalki Gap area to strengthen the defense of the border with Belarus. And Trump announced that he's signing an executive order to formally classify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And if he does that, that will justify him to use the U.S. military to attack any areas that fentanyl could be coming from, including foreign countries. And Venezuela's state oil firm PDVSA said it suffered a cyber attack it blamed on the U.S., claiming operations were unaffected. Wow. And Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus, said that if Maduro wants to come to Belarus, the doors are wide open. Netanyahu said that something big is happening in South America that I won't detail. So Netanyahu must know that the U.S. is about to do something. And we're hearing that various foreign oil tankers are now making U-turns after the U.S. seizure of the Venezuelan oil tanker, according to shipping data. So oil tankers are avoiding Venezuela like the plague. And Maria Machado, the opposition leader in Venezuela, suffered a vertebral fracture during her escape from Venezuela. She has been treated at a hospital in Oslo, and Venezuela has suspended all natural gas contracts with Trinidad, citing their participation in the U.S. seizure of the Venezuelan oil tanker. And U.S. Southern Command announced 3 new boat strikes on narco boats in the Eastern Pacific. All 3 were successful, resulting in 8 deaths. Okay, so 3 more boats attacked over the past couple of days. And Taiwan's defense ministry said its military can react rapidly to any surprise attack from China, with units able to operate independently without waiting for central command orders. The ministry warned that China has steadily increased the scale and frequency of military activity around the island, including drills that could quickly shift from exercises to real combat. And the U.S. State Department released a statement condemning Chinese Coast Guard harassing Philippine fishermen over the past few days, and the U.S. suspended the technology deal with the U.K. The deal promised billions from U.S. firms like those in AI and chip development for U.K. infrastructure, but faces halt due to U.S. objections to the U.K.'s online safety laws, seen as limiting free speech. Interesting. And Trump filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC News in the UK. And according to an exclusive report published by the Washington Post, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, along with other senior officials at the Pentagon, are preparing a major plan to present to Defense Secretary Hegseth in the coming days, which would see the downgrade of several of the U.S. Armed Forces Unified Combatant Commands and a shift in the balance of power among its top generals as part of a consolidation previously sought by Hegseth and other members of the Trump administration. If adopted, the plan would usher in some of the most significant changes at the military's highest ranks in decades, which would include reducing the prominence of the headquarters of the U.S. Central Command, the U.S. European Command, and U.S. Africa Command by placing them under the control of a new organization known as U.S. International Command. In addition, the plan also calls for realigning U.S. Southern Command and U.S. Northern Command, which oversee military operations throughout the Western Hemisphere, under a combatant command to be known as the U.S. Americas Command, or AMERICOM. So very interesting. They're going to have NORTHCOM and SOUTHCOM under AMERICOM, and then they're going to have all the other commands under INTERCOM. Interesting. And we have an atmospheric river situation in the Pacific Northwest that's going to affect Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. High winds, heavy rains, flooding, lots of snow, power outages are expected over the next week. Here you can see on Wednesday, they're calling for wind gusts of 50 to 70 miles an hour in Spokane. And here you can see in central and northern Idaho and western Montana, they're talking about heavy rains, mudslides, and then massive snow. It's going to change over to snow after Wednesday when the temperature drops. So basically the worst of both worlds, heavy rain and then heavy snow and ice and wind. And then here you can see Montana is going to see some insane winds. You can see 90 mile per hour winds possible in Browning, Montana, 85 mile per hour winds in Cut Bank, 70 mile per hour winds in Havre, 75 mile per hour winds in Great Falls, 60 mile per hour winds in Lewistown, 65 mile per hour winds in Helena, the capital, 70 mile per hour winds in Bozeman. This is just totally insane. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on with more breaking news. Until then, check me out on Telegram, Twitter, and also Patreon. If you pay $5 a month on Patreon, you can get access to all of these updates without any advertisements. And also I provide summarized text news updates only to Patreon members and Silver members on YouTube. So if you don't have time to watch my videos, you can read the text summaries and get caught up on everything you missed. But until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.